I'm going to call this meeting to order. Just an update, we did not have closed session today that has been canceled. So please, everybody stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. We have Melissa, Luke, and me here. Guy and Catlin have excused absences. Notice to the public. Any member of the public wishing to address the governing board on a topic within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district but not on the agenda may do so at this time, or may do so during the public comment period identified on this agenda. By law, subjects not on the agenda cannot be acted upon by the board except to briefly respond, clarify, or refer to staff for review and presentation at a future meeting. The board president will recognize you for public comment on the matters on the agenda at the appropriate time. I see we have no correspondence. Nothing on our consent agenda. Any public comment?
No, you can wait for a little bit.
Is it on the agenda?
Actually, is about one of the library activities.
Okay. Okay, so no public comments. All right, director's report.
Okay. Pam Griffey is here in attendance with us. She's a volunteer.
The microphone, just
Oh, sorry. I realized it was over there. Is that better?
yeah.
Okay, sorry. So Pam Griffey is here in attendance. She's a volunteer. She works for the Friends at the bookstore. And she's the person that's made the big effort as far as trying to get a literacy program established here in Dixon. We so far have 11 students signed up. There's a tutor orientation coming up on May 23rd. And after that, we'll try and match people up with tutors with the students. The Rotary Club said that once we had both students and tutors lined up to let them know, and they'd have a vote on whether they would potentially fund the project, or at least partially fund it. And Pam came and she's got a handout for people.
Great. Sure.
Hand them all to us and we'll just pass them. Thank you.
Whoops.
This is a brief sheet that I made up for the library staff meeting, and I thought it might help clarify some of the questions, the answers. They were very receptive, and I think we're going to be bringing more people into the library with our program and also educating citizens of Dixon. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Wonderful.
How many tutors do you have lined up?
We have, excuse me, we have a team starting out that is about 10, and we're going to be training them in a couple weeks. None of them are trained as of yet, so they can't really start work. I'm following this pattern from the Solano County Literacy Programs. They have a fabulous program over there, works great. We just need it here.
Okay,
So that's how they do it, and I just follow their lead.
great. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Pam's done a great job as trying to organize this whole thing. I've done my part to facilitate it, but she's really the one who's deserves most of the credit. Yeah, you can go if you would like. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have Summer Reading Club coming up. It's starting at the end of this month, May 29th, and runs through August the 3rd. I gave everybody copies of the flyers that we have now. And once we get closer to the Reading Club events, we'll have individual flyers for each event. Jim's doing a promotional tour of the schools. He started April 27th at Anderson's Book Day event. I understand that he met Luke there.
Yep.
May 7th, went to Gretchen Higgins. May 10th, Anderson. May 11th, another visit to Gretchen Higgins. May 21st, he's going to Bert and Ernie's. Kindergarten visits from Anderson to the library the week of May 21st through 25th. Tremont, May 23rd, and May 31st, Neighborhood Christian. So he's promoting the summer reading club and events and kind of explaining to everybody how they work. We're doing an adult summer reading club with the same start date, and it's ending July 30th. There'll be weekly drawings for prizes, and the top prize will be a YOLO hot air balloon ride. We're also doing a small employee reading club with small prizes. We're doing online registration for summer reading starting the week before the reading club starts on May 22nd. And we've got a series of programs coming up in conjunction with the summer reading club. Toastmasters 6/9, Altered Books on 6/16. Drone Federation Club is coming at an undetermined date at this point. One of our librarians is doing a couple of projects. One's making jewelry out of old maps, and she's also planning on talking about her trip to Cuba that she took earlier this year. And we may have a person that's going to talk about doing basic genealogy too. As far as prizes this year, the kids are all going to get a tote bag, reading log, stickers and instructions to start with. Bookmarks, stickers, pencils, tattoos, and jelly bellies for the next level. Second level is a water bottle, scratch stickers, prism scope. Third level is a binder pouch, a lanyard, and a yo-yo. Fourth level is noise putty, a pirate hat craft, and a color-it-yourself book tote. The next level is a slideshow, flashlight, DIY binoculars, flashing wristband, mirror sunglasses, and an invite to the final party. And then there will also be Giants tickets, an undetermined prize from the SAC FC Republic, tickets for Legoland, and Round Table Pizza is kicking in with some gift certificates there too.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So it sounds like we have an adult summer reading program and the children's, how about teens?
We're trying to get something together for the teens. We have prizes for bookmarks, pencils, and a virtual reality headset that Jim's got lined up, but I don't think we have any teen programs set up as of yet.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
That's it for summer reading stuff. Well, a couple things that are related. We did extend the contract pad out and back where we have the summer reading programs off of the children's room. It cost $2,500 for the initial project for adding DG to that area. Today I had a tree expert come by, the same guy who came by last year, to see if we could expand it further from there, because everyone was kind of disappointed that it wasn't a bigger expansion of that. But he didn't think we should go any further towards the big oak tree, but he thought that we could expand it into a larger semicircle from what it is now. So I've asked the city this afternoon to consider that expansion. I have to get city okay to do that. And the tree guy is going to put together a proposal for that that will also include how to mulch the oak tree, and he wants them to trim the oak tree. We asked him to do that last year, but they didn't do it last year. But he says it needs to be done this fall because there are lots of branches that need trimming.
So about how many square feet are we hoping to be able to add to that?
Oh,
Do you have
gosh,
any idea?
I don't really know.
Okay. All right.
I would say it would increase it by another third or so. So it'll go further out into the park, but still in an area that's dirt. It won't infringe on any of the grass area.
Okay.
So it'll be quite a bit bigger.
Yeah.
I can bring the report from the tree guy once that happens. We're doing lunch at the library again this year, Monday through Friday, starting June 4th through July 27th. I don't have any updates on Solano as far as their progress on adding student IDs to their database. We checked with them. That's, supposedly they're supposed to have something done by fall, as we talked about last time. We have a guy that's coming once a month to do a resume workshop. The first one was pretty successful. We're having a second one on the 16th. And we're still continuing to do the job search pathway, where we have somebody come from Fairfield to try and help people with resources for jobs. We got our new photocopier from Caltronics last week. It's much faster than the other one. Staff decided that we need to have another tray added so we can utilize all 4 trays to the copier. That should be coming in the next week to 2 weeks. We're ready to launch Canopy, which is that streaming service that we talked about last meeting, where they'll have a lot more educational movies and like art films available for people. And as I said last time, that's on a pay-per-view basis, so we're not charged anything up front. It's just when people view the videos or films. This weekend, we are closing for Mayfair. In the past, we'd always closed on Saturdays, but there were scheduling issues for Sunday, so we decided today to close both days because with Mother's Day and Mayfair, we were having a hard time getting enough staff to be able to work on Sunday.
Well, now where am I going to take my mom on Mother's Day? Dang it.
And that's it as far as the library activities go.
Okay. Okay, ongoing business?
Okay, let's see. Okay, we do have an estimate from the architect as to what it would cost to develop the second floor of the Miller Building into a staff-only area. And this is significantly less than the other estimates that we talked about last month. He's estimating just a little under $260,000. This does not include an elevator. He thought that an elevator would take up too much space between the first floor and the second floor, but he said that he thought that a dumbwaiter or some smaller device to move things like books and supplies would be quite doable. And he thought that would be between $30,000 and $35,000 to do that. So that's where that stands at this point. We talked about the different design firms coming, and none of the design firms that we talked about that had submitted proposals were exactly ideal. So we decided to contact JK Architecture. I talked to them. They came out from Auburn to visit the library last week, and they're a good mix. They have a lot of library experience, which is one of the things that a couple of the design firms didn't have. And this design firm worked on the Davis Library and libraries in Lincoln, Winters, Red Bluff, and San Diego. On JK Architecture's website, you can look at those designs in more detail if you would like to. So they have experience working with library vendors and dealing with library-specific issues like shelving. We had 2 guys come out, and they did a real thorough look at the building and the Miller Building and our other properties. And they're going to prepare a master plan on how they think we should approach the entire renovation and expansion in what order. It was interesting to me because none of the other design people had mentioned the idea of renovating the basement and having that be a public access area. They thought that that was something that we should really consider. And
Meaning of the Carnegie?
yeah, because it was public at one time, but
Yeah, but that was a long time ago.
yeah.
But that would expand the usage of the library, though, by quite a bit? If,
Yeah, the basement's really big. I mean, it's as big as the floor space of the Carnegie is, if not bigger.
could
Right
there be,
Now it's just basically storage.
Yeah, now it's just storage. We keep lots of books down there, but also lots of supplies and things. And
could there, what would be feasible to have like study rooms down there?
I guess that could be feasible. I think that any place you have study rooms, you'll have to have a staff
Staff,
person down there too, just to keep people from doing undesirable things.
Yes.
But it's an interesting concept. So they thought that probably the way we should approach it, which is what Guy said last time, would be the first step would be to renovate the current building. Then they thought we should consider making the basement public and then possibly moving into the Miller building after that. The only thing with them is that I don't have any price quotes yet as to what it'll cost for them to develop a master plan for us. They want me to scan all of the past inspection documents and all that sort of thing and send them over to them to have a look at. So hopefully by next month I'll have something. But everyone liked the guys, and they seem like they have really good ideas, and they do have a lot of library experience. So I think at this point they may be the best candidate so far. I did talk with realtors about getting an estimate on what the Pereira properties might be worth. The architect, the person that the architect suggested was going on a month-long vacation. He said contact him in a month if we didn't have somebody lined up. I talked with Chuck Kraus. He said his particular area of expertise were properties along the I-80 corridor and not really the downtown core, but he said if we couldn't come up with anybody that he'd be happy to look and give his assessment. And I have talked with Gary Archer, but he says he needs to set up a time to get back to me so we can talk about it in more detail. So that's where that stands.
Okay.
And one other thing that's related to the library itself that staff had brought up in the staff meeting was that they would like to be informed of the progress of plans to move the middle school and have a discussion as to what kind of impact that will have at the library, on the library itself.
We can put that on the agenda
Okay.
for the next agenda. And it can be,
Yeah, we would need an update from, well, I mean, I don't even know at this point how much John could update us on.
well, I think we have a general idea of when it will be moving,
Yeah,
as long as everything
of course,
goes-
construction always has kinks in the works, but yeah, we could at least give general goals,
Okay.
subject to problems and changes.
Add a
All right.
couple months.
And there will be, so just so you know, next Thursday, there'll be an update on, well, I guess that's just the movement of the sixth graders, never mind. Scratch that.
Well, and then even after the middle school project is done and the students are moved in there, then the Anderson students will probably go over to CAJ for a while. So I don't know I don't know how many kids you guys might have come in from Anderson with parents or whatever after school, so that could impact the library use a little too for a while.
I know this isn't on the agenda, but since we're talking about this, the teen center, there was a rumor that may be closing soon. Is that any truth to that?
Have you heard any update on that? I don't know if that's true or not. I know that they were looking for what they were going to do, both financially and to find a new place. And I know the district, we would certainly want to help them with a place, but I haven't heard if they even have finances to stay going or not. Do you know anything about any of that?
I thought that there was an update, but I don't know. We probably have to have it on the agenda if we're gonna talk about the impact of it.
Yeah, probably.
If you want to bring it, if you want to put it on the agenda for next time, I can follow up. I'm really close with Pastor Kathy, who's on the board, and I can talk to her on Sunday.
Okay.
And you can get a complete update.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, the next thing is the revision of policy 3015, the employee status one that we've talked about the past couple months. Last month, the vote was delayed because we weren't sure why Scott had changed the wording from 6 months to 3 months. The explanation from Scott was, quote, "I revised the temporary to 3 months to be consistent with the new extra help status 999 limit and my recommendation that moving forward, the temporary classification is actually used for temporary positions, e.g. backfilling for persons out on short-term assignments. The extra help 999 limit equates to approximately 4 months, so it makes sense to treat temporary as a shorter time frame, i.e. 3 months. Keeping temporary at 6 months would exceed the 999 hour limit."
Was that just for information?
No, there should be a vote on that tonight to accept the new policy. The old policy's on top and
Okay.
the newly rewritten one by the attorneys on the second page.
Do you have any questions?
Nope.
Any public comment? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
The next thing were the revisions to sections of the policy manual 1000 to 1035. We talked about these last time, and it was decided that we wanted to table it till this month so people would have time to look through these and make notes and comments about them before we had a vote on what would be changed. I went through and redlined the changes that I thought should be made, and then the library staff had gone through these as well, and I added those as well. Most of them in this section are just changing the word from commission to board, the term district librarian to library director, and then later on, there are updates to the policies that are coming from the American Library Association, where they have made updates in their policies.
I had a few things that I thought should be modified a little bit. On policy number 1000, you changed it from saying the library board commission to governing board. Let's see, where was it? Most of the language talks about the governing board of library trustees in other areas. But then you made it the library board. And so I think just for continuity, although I don't know that it really matters, it should remain governing board of library trustees, or we should change that language of governing board of library trustees to the library board everywhere. Because it's right now in 1000, it says library board, but then if you go to 1005.3.1, like it says governing board of library trustees.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's a
I
good-
mean, it's one and the same, but just for purposes of continuity of the document, I think it'd be better if we have one term.
Okay, that makes sense. So would you prefer governing board of library trustees to be the language, or?
Do you have any preference? I don't think it really matters, whatever is easier in terms of the changes. Are they defined? Somewhere it should define what it is. And so if it defines library board of governing board of library trustees or library board, either way is fine.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that it may be defined in the 8,000 policy section.
Okay. So as long as it's
That's-
consistent with that, wherever there's a definition of that, I think that's.
Okay, that makes sense.
Probably just for more formal, I mean, if you don't want to say it all, the governing board of the library, I don't know if you necessarily have to have the trustees in, but if, I mean, I don't think it's a big deal either way,
Yeah,
but.
I think either way is fine. It's just being consistent so that if someone's reading it, they don't see one term somewhere and then see the other term somewhere else and not know that it's the same board.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's a good catch.
Leave it to the attorney.
So most of my other comments were really so small that I'm not even going to bring them up. But I get nitpicky. But on 1020.2.1, where it talks about positions must disclose all interest in real property, as well investments, but I think what it should just say is the above designated positions must comply with FPPC Form 700 obligations as required by law, including disclosures, required disclosures. And then I thought, since we basically apply as school board members, it should say, it could be parentheses, filing of Form 700 with Dixon Unified School District is intended to provide compliance for those sitting as library trustees or board members. Because the way this is worded, saying must comply, disclose all interests, that could go beyond what we do and what's legally required by Form 700. I don't know exactly what that terminology means, so it should just say something about we're obligated to comply as per Form 700 requirements. And I can give you that specific language after the meeting if you.
Okay, yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
good.
Form 700 is just a conflict of interest.
Right.
Yeah.
And this just, I mean, because, for example, Form 700 conflict of interest requirements, as I understand them, don't require us to disclose our residence as a
Asset.
where we live as an asset. If we have rental properties within the district, those are something we have to disclose. So the current guidelines here say disclose all interests in real property. So that goes beyond what's actually required legally
Oh,
by Form
okay.
700. So that's why I think it's safer and easier to just describe it as we're going to comply with the law on Form 700.
So 700 makes you, makes you disclose if you have rental properties, or only if you have rental properties that you rent to the district?
Well, I don't have any, so I didn't look at it that closely. I think it's if you make income within the district through a rental property,
Really? Okay.
but I don't know. You
I,
might-
I was always under the assumption it was if you rented anything to the district.
Oh.
If it's something that you're profiting from the district, like say you have a publishing company and we're trying to go to the library to sell these specific books, that would be a conflict of interest. I think it's primarily those kinds of concerns where we could possibly profit from something
Or your decision's going to be influenced by you making money off of
of
the district.
whatever, yes.
Right, although, I mean, and of course, this gets very convoluted very quickly, but if you rent homes within the district and you rent homes to individuals who might then do some business with the district or, have some other aspect of they want favor from the district. So I don't know, I didn't look that closely, but I know that from reading just the basic form that residences didn't have to be disclosed, and the way this was worded, I was concerned it was broader than that, so.
Okay.
So should we wait on this until those changes are made
Yeah.
and then?
Oh, yeah, I suppose we should, because we should see a final draft before we approve it. And then my other one was just more of a question, since we're doing this a piece at a time, and that is on the last page on 1030.1.1. And this is talking more about visual materials. And it talks about confidentiality of all individuals and institutions using film, video, and other audiovisual materials. And I'm assuming that there's a like section talking about written materials that also provides that same sort of privacy for use of written materials. And I don't know if you know the answer to that offhand, Steve, but to me, it's like if there's privacy for visual materials, why shouldn't there be the same privacy for the written materials? But I'm assuming that probably is the case, but.
Well, gosh, I would think it would be covered probably in 1030 somewhere under the freedom to read. These are just taken exactly from the American Library Association platform, so it's the sort of thing where if we didn't want to keep it in, we could just discard that whole part of it.
Well, I think the section is good. I would just say if there's not a section that talks specifically about privacy rights for written materials, then even you could just put after line 2, and other audiovisual materials, comma, in addition to written materials. But I'm guessing that the written materials are probably addressed somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
But, just my 2 cents is I think we should protect people's privacy on all materials that we're dealing with, which is probably what it says anyway. So
Okay,
that was the only comments I had.
okay. And I thought that the way we were approaching this was we would go through these, and then I would make the suggested changes from the board and the staff and run them by Scott
Okay.
before we would have a vote on anything.
That makes sense.
Perfect.
But rather than him go through the entire manual, I thought that's how we had agreed to approach the project.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other comments?
Nope.
Public comments? Okay, moving on.
Okay, so logically, the next step after these would be to go on from whatever the next one is, 1040 is the next one. But something had come up and led to a discussion, and I thought that we should talk about the internet access policy next time. We have a guy who's been coming to the library every day, and the first time he came in, he asked if it was possible to turn the filtering system off on the computers.
No.
But, well, actually, our policy does say that they can ask that, but he hasn't actually asked for us to do that. He's made other weird comments, like saying that, what did he ask? He asked why we couldn't have the same policy as Fairfield so he could see the good stuff or something to that effect. But we've been monitoring what he's watching, and so far there's nothing that could be considered to be obscene. He's just made these kind of odd comments, so he's on everybody's radar.
And can you watch what he's viewing?
You can stand behind the computer and see. They have privacy screens, but if you line up with it, you can see what they're watching.
But I'm saying, you as the library director, can you log in and see what he's been looking at?
I can. I don't know if our computer guy could.
And networking, you should be able to look it up if they're all networked together.
Piece thing, you can.
Well, at one library that I worked at, they had it set up where the librarian at the reference desk could toggle from screen to screen and see what everyone was watching. I don't know if that's something we want to consider, but I asked, since he has a Fairfield address, I asked Solano if they had any problems with them. They have not. I checked the sex offender list. He didn't show up there. So at this point, he's just like this guy who's made some weird comments, but really has not looked at anything that could be considered obscene or objectionable.
We
We don't know what his definition of the good stuff is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
wouldn't our
true.
filtering system stop him from looking at anything? Right? Ideally?
Yeah.
That's what's supposed to happen?
Yeah, it should.
Okay.
But there's some conflict as to how the filtering system's set up on the policies here, and that's one of the things I would like us to look at.
Okay.
The only one that I would like us in this packet to consider repealing is policy 4230, internet filtering, because that is just not true, because we do use filtering because of the SIPA, the Children's Internet Protection Act. That requires us to filter all of the computers because it's a law that was passed back in 2001. But in order for us to receive E-rate, the discounts on our internet service and the phone service, we have to filter all of the computers. So 4230 is in our book, but it's really not the current policy. It comes out and says that we're opposed to the use of internet filtering software and then gives reasons why. So since that is not how things work, I would like the board to consider,
Taking that out.
yeah, revoking that segment tonight. The other thing is that I would like, for next time's discussion, to look at the internet use policy that Vanessa came up with that was approved by the board in 2013. We also have, as part of our policies, the old SNAP internet policies. That's the very first one under 4225. On page 3, there's one segment that I think that we should change the wording on. It lists unacceptable uses of the internet, and one of them is sending, receiving, or displaying text or graphics which contain extremes of sex or violence that are an end to themselves or which may reasonably be construed as obscene by contemporary statewide standards. I think that we should find some way around using the word extremes, because I think that that's very vague. And I don't think it gives us a very good definition as to what sorts of things we should look for.
I'm sorry, Steve, I lost you. Where was
Oh,
the
okay,
section you
sorry.
were referring to?
4225 should be the first segment in this packet. And then on page 3, it's the second one that's the list of unacceptable uses.
It looks like this. Like this, right there. You're there. It's the second bullet.
Ah, I see. Yeah, I agree with you. Extremes makes it vague.
Yeah,
There are definitely different levels of extreme, I'm
Yeah.
sure, depending on what someone's opinions are.
yeah, I mean, one person's extreme would be considered another person's normal, so I don't really think that it should have that language there.
So do we just take out extreme and just
I'd say we could just take out extremes of, and the language about reasonably construed as obscene by contemporary statewide standards. I mean, that's the standard we're looking at.
so
There's
contain sex
a
or
reasonable,
violence?
reasonableness standard.
Well, this is going to be a much bigger discussion next time, but
Yeah,
the library staff talked about this, and one of the things that we looked at were different local libraries and their policies. And Sacramento Public Library, everyone agreed that this should probably be incorporated into ours some way or another. Everyone liked the wording and what it says. It says, "The library's workstations are in public areas. Since others may be involuntarily exposed to what is viewed, the library asks that each user exercise good judgment and consideration of others. Please bear in mind that some materials, such as sexually graphic materials, may well be more appropriate for viewing in the privacy of your home rather than in a public library setting. If library staff become aware of subject matter that would interfere with the maintenance of a safe, welcoming, and comfortable environment for the public, the internet user will be asked to end a search immediately or change the screen."
yeah, that's better language.
Yeah, I like the language because it gives the librarian more leeway and something more definite
Mhm.
to work with, rather than getting into an argument with someone as to whether something's extreme or not.
Yeah,
We can just say that it's inappropriate to view in this setting.
Okay,
Okay,
So, I think that segment, that's that for that segment. I'd just like us to talk about it more
okay,
for the next meeting.
excellent. Okay, moving on. Anybody have any more comments on that? Public comment? Okay, item B.
Okay, we have new legal fees from our attorneys, Atkinson, Andelson, Lawyer, Rudin, Romo. Periodically, they'll send us this and ask the board to approve their new rates effective July 1st, 2018.
okay.
Any comments? Public comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, extension of the Moreno contract for 2018-19. It's for the same amount as last year, $30,000. Pedro continues to do a really good job keeping the library up to date and making quick repairs, cleaning the roofs, doing all sorts of things for us. So I would like to extend his contract for one more year.
Excellent. That's good to have someone just in case.
Yeah, and he lives in town, so he's on call. He's
Wonderful.
willing to come out at odd hours if there's an emergency.
It's always the same guy, so he knows exactly what he's getting into.
Yeah, and he'll bring different people out depending on their levels of expertise, so.
Okay. Any comments?
No.
Public comments? Okay, entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Creation of new library staff positions.
Okay, well, I would like the board to consider creating a few new library positions, because we talked about it briefly before as part of the budget. but several staff members have reached the end of their step increases, so they really don't have anywhere to go, and they don't really have a way to advance in position at the library. So I would like the librarian twos, there are two of them, to become librarian threes, which are supervisory positions. The library assistant twos, there are two positions at the top of their range. I would like them to become library circulation supervisors, and I would like the accounting and payroll technician to become the accounting assistant confidential. We would also create a library clerk 2 position to reward experience, and that one previously hadn't existed. I'll have more job descriptions ready for approval at the June meeting, but the positions would all start at step 3 of the new schedules, which is going to be the next thing we'll talk about. But if raises were approved, the 15 or 20% raises that we're talking about next, there wouldn't be an immediate economic impact because these people would all be at step 3 in their different new titles.
So are you eliminating the librarian 2 position and are you eliminating these positions?
No, I think they would still exist just in case a librarian 1 gets promoted.
And how long have they been at this rate?
At the top of their range, do you know, Gina?
How long has who been?
The librarian 2s, how long have they been at the top of the range?
I don't recall offhand.
That's okay.
And the next library staff position that's new that I would like the board to consider, and Melissa and I talked a little bit about it, would be to create a teen librarian position. It would be 20 hours a week. They'd fill in evenings and weekends, largely the hours that Jim isn't here, but I would like there to be a day where the two of them work together. This would be a librarian 2 step 3 position, and it would be non-benefited, and it would cost $44,000 a year would be the estimate.
Well, I think if, just my comment on that position, that if we are hiring someone, that they also need to be included to create a teen program and to oversee that.
Yeah, that would be part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be a librarian that's just devoted to teen stuff. So teen programs, developing the collection, and also filling in at the reference desk too.
Okay.
Okay.
So the current, so I'll just say, I know I wasn't at the last meeting, but when you say 15 to 20%, that kind of made my eyes get really big.
Okay.
So I might need some more explanation, maybe.
Yeah, that's part of the next thing is the Solano YOLO salary survey.
But, so you wanted, okay, so you have librarian 2, and that's their current, I'm just flipping to the first one that you talked about. The librarian 2, you want to create to the librarian 3, but where's their pay? Is that on the next item?
Yeah, that'll be part of the
Okay.
next item.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for this item? Okay, comments? Okay, moving on.
Okay, so we did a salary survey for comparing our salaries to those of Solano and YOLO, and that's based on policy 3150.1.1, which says salary schedules should ensure that the library district salaries are competitive with salary schedules for comparable positions of adjacent library jurisdictions in Solano and YOLO counties. So we went through and took all the different positions and looked at comparable positions in both of those. And each position will be represented in this packet. And then over on this side, you'll have the Solano and the YOLO salaries posted there.
Got it.
Where's that at? Is that in this? Or is it in this?
It should be the first one that says, the first one's accounting payroll technician.
If you go back a few. I guess the thing that
That's-
struck me,
Are you talking about just this? Show me
Yeah.
what you're talking about where it compares the,
so it
Oh, right
shows
here.
There's,
Yeah,
Okay.
here's the current
sorry,
schedule, and
Okay.
then just to the right of that.
okay.
I guess the thing that struck me when I started reading through this is although we're behind Solano,
We're ahead of YOLO.
we're ahead of YOLO.
In a lot.
So that kind of made me wonder, okay, we certainly want to be in par with other places, but what exactly does that mean if we're actually ahead of YOLO right now, but behind other parts of Solano?
That's true in some positions, but like the accounting payroll technician, that's behind YOLO. Librarian 2 is, YOLO is slightly less than us. Librarian 1, same.
Okay, so let me ask about Solano for a minute.
Okay,
So real quick, in the black is ours, the blue is Solano, the other, next to it is YOLO. Are all other Solano libraries, they are under the county, yes?
yes.
The county runs them.
Yeah.
All the libraries except ours, correct?
And Benicia.
And Benicia.
Benicia's separate.
Because I bet that probably has some kind of an impact as well. Do you think? I'd be interested to see what Benicia was. Granted, Benicia's cost of living is more than our area, but I would be interesting to see
See what Benicia
what
makes.
Benicia is. I mean, I value the work that our employees do, and I want to, make sure that they're rewarded for their hard work, but 20% is a lot.
Well, most of them don't warrant a 20%.
Yeah, we did calculations for both 15 and 20%. Those were the figures that we were looking at. Did you want?
Thank
I'd
you.
just like to say on the salary study, there's no recommendation here for 15% or 20%. The study is based on a comparable position, and it's, the geographics would be the county, the Solano versus the YOLO.
Okay.
So that's all this was. And you can see a lot of the trends, like the accounting technician, Solano's like 14 to 16% higher. YOLO's like 4% across the board, higher
Under,
like all the
right.
steps. And then if you look at librarian 2, Solano's like 11% higher. And
YOLO's
YOLO's like under. We're
Okay.
we're over.
Okay.
And the same thing on the librarian 1. And the same thing on the librarian
Library 2 is,
assistant,
okay.
librarian assistant 2. That one, what I did there on the right, you can see supervising versus non-supervising. And then I do believe that Steve included in this package the screenshots of all the hourly rates that support Solano and YOLO.
Yeah, that's where the
Okay.
basis of the salary study is the last few pages.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
So the library assistant too, a supervising position, Solano's like 5 to 6% higher, So
Agree.
some positions have a greater just variance than other positions.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you look at
That makes
library
sense.
assistant 2 for non-supervising versus supervising it in Vacaville. I mean, you're talking 40% difference between YOLO and Solano.
Which one are you looking at?
I'm sorry, the library assistant 2.
Library assistant 2.
Uh-huh. So the discrepancy between Solano and YOLO, if you're looking at non-supervised, that's like a 40% difference.
Yes.
It's crazy.
And currently, the 2 staff members' duties include supervision.
Yeah, they do.
And they're not being compensated for that.
Or supervision. No,
Yeah.
no, those are things that we need to know,
Right.
for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Right.
I mean, it needs to be definitely, I would say if you're creating these new positions and they are going to be, I mean, it sounds like they're already supervising. it needs to be written to the job description. So it's not that anyone can slide up into that position. That I think, for me, in
Right.
order to approve a new position, I want to see the job descriptions, what they're gonna be expected to do on a regular basis.
Okay.
And I see now that you guys pointed out, I mean, library assistant one, Solano County, I mean, pays a lot more. Actually, a lot of these, 30%, 23%.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Library clerks.
And I think there's probably, I mean, so like I said, so you're not coming to us saying you want us to give them a 20% raise. This is just the study and we need to figure out what's,
Yeah, we
What's-
just did numbers for
Okay.
15 and 20, but
okay.
certainly you don't have to approve those, or we can come up with another figure.
So what
Yeah,
is
this,
what is the total compensation package, though? I mean, are our benefits pretty equal to their benefits?
I didn't even go into benefits.
That could make a big difference.
Well, and
too.
plus, because
I
I'm
think
sure,
they have maybe a lot more, but I didn't even go there.
but also we have to take into consideration that the library is under PERS, right? PERS?
CalPERS, yeah.
That the PERS rates are going up and really that goes towards a retirement and like that's part of the total compensation. The library's having to pay for.
Right.
Extra.
That's not part of this salary study, but it
Okay.
is an eventual cost for the library.
Yeah.
And right now, for the classic members, the older members, we're paying like 20% the library. And for the new members, it's like, I think it's 8 or 9%.
Okay. That 8 or 9% is
For the new members. I'm a new
Okay.
member. Steve's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
new member.
Yeah.
But
that's
Susan,
probably why STIRS and PERS is in trouble. Because, yeah. Okay. Well, I think that those would be the total compensation as far as what we pay for, because we're talking about full-time employees, what we're paying for towards their benefits. I think we need to consider all of that when we're considering changing things.
yeah, I think that if, at the very minimum, I think that Solano's probably getting more benefits than we are. But I think the more important issue to address right away would be the wage, the hourly wage discrepancy. You know, and you can see on the pages, we're right on. And that's the California labor law drove that. So we're in sync with Solano on them.
Okay. So sorry, just a random thought that started to come out.
So Steve, when would you guys like us to vote on this? You looking for a vote tonight?
I wouldn't mind a vote tonight, but if you guys are more comfortable waiting another month, I think that's okay.
I would be more comfortable waiting another month.
I am as well, and I think this would be good to have the entire board have their input on this as well.
Okay.
And also, when we're considering those other positions, to have the descriptions and what they're gonna be expected to do. Okay, so I think also I want to know what's going to be the cost, the increased cost that we're going to have.
Yeah.
And I would say,
Yeah, as part of the budget, we have that, if
Okay.
we want to move on to that.
well, maybe not quite yet, but.
Okay.
What do you guys think? Do you guys think that they could give us 5%, 10%? Just other steps going up so we could see that?
I mean, how hard is it to do that? Is it,
Sorry.
No problem. As a matter of fact, it's really easy, I think. If you look at that one-page sheet that has this,
Okay, that's part of the budget package. That's on page 3 of the budget package, which looks like this on the cover. There's a gray band. It should be the next part of the package.
okay, you want to move on?
so I'll walk you through it real quick.
That would be good.
So going left to right, oh, I don't need going left to right, first you have the description of what the line item is, and the 4 categories are benefited employees, and then the unbenefited, which is librarian, staff, clerk, and page. And then the second column is the hourly rate. And then the column after that is when someone calls in sick, they now get paid for it, and you have to pay also for a second person that does their shift. So that's what the e-sick is. It's compensating for those duplicate payments we would have to do. And then the FICA, that's the tax on the total of that salary. And then the next column is the CalPERS retirement, and the column after that is the medical, and that just basically applies to the benefited employees. And then you have the total. So the first section, that first section, it's a baseline at 100%. That's what, if we didn't do anything at all, this would be our next year budget for 18-19
Okay,
Okay.
at 100%.
okay,
And then if you go to the second grouping, the 115%, that's if you gave a 15% raise, it would be an additional $80,000 altogether.
so a 15% raise to every single position,
Yeah.
okay.
Same thing on the next, third section, which is 120%. So it would go up by 100, roughly 100,000
Okay,
if you did 20% across the board.
and then the creation of the teen library, how
Yeah,
much that's gonna cost,
that's
okay.
the cost of that.
Okay.
So when I said I think it's fairly easy, I think if you look at this third section, the 120%,
Third page. Got it.
the third section where it's 120%, you see it's 100,000 roughly?
Mm-hmm.
Well, 20%, if you divide that by 4, you get 5%, right? So if you take 100,000 and divide it by 4, you get 25,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that would be a ballpark cost of giving a 5% raise across
Okay.
the board. 10% would be 50,000.
Okay,
That's all I wanted to,
no, I appreciate that,
Point out on that
actually,
one. Okay.
that's helpful.
Okay.
We had talked about last time how we had a large surplus, and the board was kind of directing me to try and figure out ways to spend the surplus. And so I thought that rewarding the staff with salaries and trying to keep the people that we have would be probably the best way to start spending that surplus money.
I do think rewarding staff is a positive thing. I also think that some of our other, we have to look at the costs, because, well, how long have I been on the board? For 2 years. I think we've been talking about the buildings and what we're going to do, and I don't really feel like we've made any progress towards that, towards doing anything. I know that we have a whole bunch of homes coming in to Dixon more that is going to require probably more of a library. And so we have to consider that it is possible that some of those projects could take some surplus as well,
No, I agree with that, yeah.
which would make a better working condition, right, for the staff. So I think we do have to consider that as well.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, I think we definitely want to get salaries in line with, fairly what they are in other areas, but from what I'm seeing, even though we're behind Solano County, we're ahead of YOLO in some areas. So I think we need to look at each individual position possibly and determine what we feel it should be for each one, which is going to take considerably more time.
Well, and for example, you said that we were